With just hours left to avoid a government shutdown, the Senate's top Democrat is signaling that he intends to support Republicans' resolution to keep the government open.
This as President Donald Trump prepares to give a speech about his plans to remake the Department of Justice. NBC's Julie Sirkin has the latest from Washington.
Unfortunately, today our business is cleaning up from the old way of doing things.
Just before the midnight deadline for a government shutdown, senators expected to vote on a bill to keep the lights on until October. It's an interim funding bill Democrats loathe because they say they had no input in writing it. Most Democrats support a shorter 30-day bill to buy time for bipartisan negotiations on a full-year funding plan. But after saying he couldn't support the GOP continuing resolution, just 24 hours later, Minority Leader Schumer announcing he will vote for it after all, because the alternative is worse.
A shutdown would allow DOJ to shift into overdrive,
Putting Schumer at odds with members of his party in both the House and Senate, and outside of Washington, too.
We cannot hand the keys of the kingdom of this big, beautiful democracy that we love over to somebody who has total disregard not only for the rule of law, but for American lives.
Meanwhile, President Trump today addressing the Department of Justice after firing prosecutors who worked on cases against him. Mr. Trump's visit to the agency comes after he said, without evidence, it has been weaponized against him.
It was not focused on fighting violent crime and restoring law and order and public safety. So the president will be talking about his intention to restore those very basic American values to our country.
All of this as the president continues slashing federal jobs. New calls today to keep the Department of Education intact after DOJ cut programs and half the staff. Anxiety and anger spilling across the country.
You don't get to do this!
North Carolina Republican Representative Chuck Edwards was booed during a town hall and then blocked by protesters when he tried to leave. Despite the turmoil, President Trump has repeatedly reassured Americans his policies will ultimately bring success.
Here on Capitol Hill, lawmakers are facing questions about those steep tariffs that the Trump administration has imposed on our allies and the moves that have sent Wall Street on a roller coaster ride. Meanwhile, Secretary of State Rubio in Canada saying that the U.S. is not in a trade war and is instead resetting global relations. In Washington, Julie Sirkin, NBC News.
And we just learned moments ago that the spending bill has been approved by the full Senate. 10 Democrats voted with Republicans to approve the measure.